Andrea Leadsom is the latest in the long line of Conservative MPs making for the back door. And Andrea Leadsom, you may recall, was a Conservative Party leadership candidate who was quite abusive about Theresa May and the fact that Theresa May was not a mother. And when she was found out, she did the sort of tearing up, the sort of thing, frankly, that Paula Venables has been doing every time she gets a question she doesn't like. And the problem is, I know the other side of Andrea Leadsom. I know the other side. And she's brutal. And I went to her, she was my constituency MP. I went to her with a concern about education and specifically about the visa abuse of students who were foreign students who were studying for A-levels, and how in the middle of their A-level studies they were suddenly thrown into confusion because they had to get new visas. And this seemed absurd, and indeed I knew a few cases where the student had been sent back to their home country in the middle of the A-level study period and therefore had missed out on the opportunity of applying to Oxford or Cambridge. And so what could have been a glittering career in a number of cases proved to be second-rate precisely because of the visas. And this was unnecessary, and with a little bit more guidance, a little bit more help, and a little less aggression, the system would be yielding much better results. And the only people who profited from this, of course, were the legal tax advisors. And I was appalled to see this side of Theresa May's hostile environment. More than that, of course, it's been renewed recently in an attempt to crack down on foreign students, because these students are very well documented. They're easy prey. Anyway, I went along to Andrea Leadsom with very specific concerns about specific cases. She didn't listen to me. Indeed, she spent 10 minutes of our 10-minute interview in a surgery haranguing me about how brilliant the Conservative Party has been towards students and about the numbers of students who are studying here and how spectacular all that is. And she didn't listen at all to me. In fact, I hardly had an opportunity to get a word in. And when I got home, I wrote to her and I said, this isn't the way a constituency MP should behave. A constituency MP holds a surgery so that she can listen to her constituents rather than harangue them and oppress them. And I haven't really changed my mind about Andrea Leadsom. I read her autobiography with great entertainment, and I thought I loved the front page cover, the cover cartoon, and I can only say I'm delighted that she's leaving. I wish she'd gone sooner. I know people in the constituency still who think that she was a wonderful constituency MP, and they're very supportive of her. I don't share that view, and both Gove and Leadsom are the better for leaving Parliament, or Parliament is the better for their absence. And so I suppose she is the highest profile quitter in the last few days. And I had thought this exodus would have stopped by now, but clearly not, as people look at the chances of a Portillo moment and whether or not they could be taken out. And I find the thought of Andrea Leadsom in her constituency being defeated really quite unthinkable. It's a very safe seat. So I'm not quite sure what it is that has made her decide that she's going to leave, because she says in her departure letter that her greatest passion is seeking to support every family to give their baby the best start in life. It is here, in the period between pregnancy and the age of 2, the 1001 critical days, when the building blocks for lifelong emotional and physical well-being are laid down. I hope and pray that the next government will take forward this work to change every society for the better. She's quite right that early education, early learning is very important, but that learning process must be nurtured all the way through to the sixth form and beyond, into university or into ordinary life, because that habit of learning, and one of the problems that we have with our modern education is that we think it's something that we do and then we have done it because we've got the certificate or whatever it is to prove it. We have not done it. What we are doing in schools, what we are doing in university if we go to university, what we are doing in an apprenticeship, if we do an apprenticeship, it's much easier to see it in an apprenticeship, is we are learning how to adapt our abilities to pick up skills, but mostly to pick up the ability to implement the broader skills and adapt to newer situations. The broader skills, in simplest terms, a broader skill of reading. No one book is the same as any other, and we pick up that joy of reading and that skill of reading. The same with mathematics, the same with music, the same with writing. Our writing improves, not because our teacher has been correcting us or because we're given better information in our crib sheets, but because we do it again and again and again, and it gets easier as we get more proficient, as our vocabulary expands. And that's what we are missing out on in our education system. We think that we've got a series of goals that we achieve and then it's over. Or we think we are being trained for a particular job and then it's over. It doesn't matter, from my point of view, I think, what subject somebody studies at GCSE, at A-level, or indeed at undergraduate level in university. Every subject, if it is studied with enough intensity, will give you particular skills that you can adapt to almost anything else. But we are eclipsing that learning process with a saturation of information for a specific subject. And we are increasingly being tested on our ability to remember the details for that specific subject, rather than to learn how to use our memory, rather than to retain those nurturing skills. And part of that is about what happens in those early days of childhood. And I think those early days of childhood are best conducted without television. Television has an extraordinarily negative impact on the brain at that age. But later on, not to use the tools of a modern world in the schoolroom or in the university is to live in cloud cuckoo land. not to use the mobile phone in class is a nonsense. Everybody's got one. We might as well make use of it. To tell people to hide it or not to have it in class is silly. What we need to do is not ditch it, but teach students how to use it with sense. The same with television, the same with the computer. How to use these things with sense and how to be ready to adapt to a changing environment. And she said, "It's been the greatest honour to serve the people of South Northamptonshire as their MP for the last 14 years, and I'm grateful to the many who have shared their thoughts, concerns and suggestions over the years. Some of my happiest moments in politics have been in achieving positive outcomes for my constituents." Well, of course, you've got to remember, she's the person who went through the lobby twice, once voting for and once voting against, I think it was gay marriage. And what we expect from a politician is for them to make up their mind, for them to listen to the issues and make up their mind. In that case, she didn't make up her mind. She wanted to play it safe. And she performed a sort of nonsense maneuver. And I remember very clearly the arguments that she gave, which were ill-informed. And she tried to grapple with theology. She failed. Why? I would say because she doesn't listen. And listening is the first job of a politician.